Humans love animals, at least that's what we often say. We rescue them, protect them, donate money to save them. Millions of people proudly call themselves animal lovers. And for many people, that love is completely real. But here is where the story becomes strange. Humans also hunt animals, raise animals, control animals, and consume billions of animals every year. Some animals sleep in our homes. Others spend their lives behind fences. Some receive names, others become products. Yet most of us rarely stop to question this contradiction. How can humans love animals and use animals at the same time? How can we feel compassion for them while also benefiting from them? At first glance, this may look like hypocrisy. But perhaps the answer is more complicated. Perhaps the real question is not whether humans love animals. Perhaps the real question is what humans mean when they say they love animals. Because the deeper we look into this relationship, the more complicated it becomes. And perhaps the story has less to do with animals than we think. Perhaps it has something to do with human nature itself. Today, animals occupy a special place in human life. Dogs sleep on couches. Cats receive medical treatment. Some pets have birthday parties, expensive toys, and even social media accounts. Around the world, people spend enormous amounts of time, money, and emotion caring for animals they consider family. When a beloved pet becomes sick, owners worry. When a pet dies, the grief can be overwhelming. The attachment is real, the affection is real, the love is real. There is no reason to doubt that. But this is where another question begins to appear. If humans love animals so deeply, why does that love seem to focus on certain animals more than others? Why do some animals become family members while others remain distant? Why do these differences feel so normal that most people never stop to ask where they came from? Because perhaps what we call love is only one part of a much larger story. And that story is just beginning. At first, it may seem obvious that humans love animals. After all, millions of people care deeply about them. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Perhaps humans do not actually love animals in general. Perhaps we love specific animals. Think about the difference. Most people do not feel the same emotional connection to every animal on Earth. Instead, they form powerful bonds with particular individuals. A dog with a name, a cat with a personality. A horse they have known for years. The moment an animal becomes someone rather than something, everything changes. It is no longer just an animal, it becomes part of a story, part of a relationship, part of a life. And maybe that is where love truly begins, not with species, but with familiarity, not with animals in general, but with individuals we come to know. This idea may explain something important. The human heart often connects more easily to one face than to an entire category. And that leads to another question. Why does the human mind work this way? The answer may lie in how empathy itself operates. Imagine seeing a photograph of one frightened dog. You can see its eyes, its expression, its fear. Many people instantly feel compassion. Now imagine hearing about thousands of unknown animals. Strangely, the emotional reaction is often weaker. Not because people do not care, but because the human brain was never designed to emotionally process everything at once. It focuses on what feels personal, what feels close, what feels familiar. In many ways, empathy works like a spotlight. It shines brightly on certain individuals while leaving much of the background in shadow. This does not make humans heartless, it makes us human. And perhaps this explains why our love for animals can feel both genuine and selective at the same time. Because what we call love may be guided not only by compassion, but also by attention. If empathy works like a spotlight, then something interesting happens. Whatever falls inside the light feels important. Whatever remains outside the light becomes easier to ignore. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as a blind spot. Not because people refuse to care, but because they often do not realize what they are overlooking. Most animal lovers can easily imagine the feelings of a beloved dog. Its excitement, its fear, its loneliness, its happiness. The connection feels natural, but the further an animal moves from our daily lives, the harder it becomes to imagine its experience. The emotional bond weakens, not because the animal changes, but because our attention changes. And that may explain one of the most fascinating contradictions in human behavior. People can feel deep compassion for some animals while rarely thinking about others. Not because they are pretending. Not because their feelings are fake. But because empathy has limits. The human mind simply cannot focus on everything at once. And perhaps that leads to an even deeper question. What if our relationship with animals reveals something about all human relationships? After all, this pattern does not only appear with animals, it appears everywhere. Humans naturally care most about what feels close, our family before strangers, our community before distant places, the people we know before the people we never meet. This tendency helped our ancestors survive. But it also creates invisible boundaries. Boundaries between us and them. Between those we notice and those we overlook. Perhaps the most surprising part is that these boundaries often feel completely natural. We rarely question them, we simply inherit them. And once we do, they become part of how we see the world, including the animals that share it with us. To understand why humans connect so strongly with certain animals, we need to travel far back into the past, long before cities, long before technology, long before modern society. For most of human history, survival depended on close relationships. Not with thousands of individuals, but with a small group, family, friends, trusted companions. The human brain evolved to focus on what was nearby and familiar. A stranger on the other side of the world could not help you survive. But the people and animals beside you could. This ancient system still lives inside us today. It encourages us to form strong bonds with specific individuals rather than entire categories. And perhaps that is why a single beloved pet can mean more to someone than hundreds of unknown animals they will never meet. The mechanism may be ancient, but it remains remarkably powerful. Yet there may be another reason humans feel such a strong connection to animals. A reason that has less to do with the animals themselves and more to do with us. Animals provide something many humans desperately need: companionship, comfort, routine, a sense of connection. A dog does not care about your status. A cat does not care about your income. Animals often offer acceptance without judgment. And in an increasingly complex world, that can be incredibly valuable. This raises an interesting possibility. Perhaps humans do not simply love animals for what they are. Perhaps we also love them for how they make us feel: safer, less lonely, more connected. And if that is true, then our relationship with animals may reveal something profound, not only about them, but about the emotional needs that have shaped human beings for thousands of years. At this point, the question may no longer be whether humans love animals. Perhaps the more interesting question is how human love actually works. Because love has never been as simple as we like to imagine, human love is selective, it is personal. It is shaped by experience, familiarity, memory, and emotion. We love certain places more than others, certain people more than others, and perhaps certain animals more than others. That does not necessarily make the love less real, it simply makes it human. The same person who deeply loves a dog may never think much about a wild animal living thousands of miles away. Not because they lack compassion, but because human emotions were never designed to reach equally in every direction. They evolved to focus on what feels close, what feels personal, what feels connected to our own lives. And perhaps that is why our relationship with animals is often filled with contradictions. The deeper we look, the more those contradictions begin to resemble the contradictions found throughout human nature itself. Which brings us back to the question that started this journey. Do humans really love animals? Perhaps there is no simple yes or no answer. The evidence suggests that many people genuinely do. They care for animals, protect them, grieve for them, and form bonds that can last a lifetime. But perhaps that love is not limitless. Perhaps it is shaped by the same psychological boundaries that shape every other form of human affection. And maybe that is the real lesson hidden beneath this story. The relationship between humans and animals was never only about animals, it was also about us, about how we connect, how we empathize, how we choose what matters, and how we find meaning in the living world around us. Because in the end, the most fascinating mystery may not be why humans love animals. The most fascinating mystery may be how humans learn to love at all.